We thought we'd see a spike in price and then maybe, Bitcoin kind of settling down a little bit before the halving. What do you make of that?
Not great, to be honest. This is a problem when you get into really choppy territory like we are in right now. It's kind of looking like we're starting to precipitate what might be the start of a downtrend, but it's too early to tell. In these conditions, this can just easily just go the other way and we just keep going higher. So I wouldn't even be trying to speculate right now which way we're going with any meaningful money. Hey guys, welcome to this week's episode of Tapping into Crypto. The boys are back in town.
The three are back again.
The band's back.
Yeah, so Tommy, we speculated at the end of last year how many times you would be on the potty this year.
Right.
What off to a good start.
I think I said once in January.
I think I said single digits.
Single digits for the year?
For the year.
Right, okay.
Yeah, we just don't appreciate that, the two of us don't do anything. You're always busy. So we just...
look, I mean... If you want me to call you out right now, I can do that. But no, look, great to be back on, guys. You guys have been absolutely smashing it. We've come through a fairly, I guess you guys have sailed us through a pretty rocky period of time as well over the last, couple of months in the market. So, maybe I'm getting back on when the waves aren't as heavy anymore. But no, you guys have done a great job. It's good to be back and see the shape of the production is looking good.
Yeah.
I mean, it's the time to come back because we've had a big week, haven't we? Well, big news week.
Yeah, there's a lot happened. So we'll have to dive in, I think.
Let's do it.
Ed, what do you reckon?
I mean, yeah. So last week we spoke about, we're pretty likely to see the Bitcoin ETF approval, and we did. And so all ETFs were approved by the SEC. And, it was an interesting kind of newsreel because everyone was excited. Then Gary Gensler came out and basically said, our hand was forced because we lost a court case or a lawsuit against Grayscale. Came out that out of the 5 SEC commissioners, 3 of them approved it, including Gensler.
Yeah. He was the deciding vote.
He was. So I think it was a lot closer than people anticipated to not getting approved, which is interesting. But I guess what we discussed last week, Pav, is we thought we'd see a spike in price and then maybe, Bitcoin kind of settling down a little bit before the halving.
Yep.
We didn't. I mean, we saw a very quick spike up to about 48K and then we've come down and what do you make of that?
Yeah, not great, to be honest. It was what I was hoping not to see. So we'll see if it's still going to play out. This is a problem when you get into really choppy territory like we are in right now. So just to pull up a quick chart of Bitcoin, that represents that sweep that we saw during the ETF launch. So when you see a key monthly high like the March 22 level, which is what we've been tracking for a while now, get taken out like that, the highs fail to stay higher and the lows start to break down, which is what we saw over the weekend into the weekly close yesterday. It's not a good sign. So it's kind of looking like we're starting to precipitate what might be the start of a downtrend, but it's too early to tell. In these conditions, this can just easily just go the other way and we just keep going higher. Yeah. So I wouldn't even be trying to speculate right now which way we're going with any meaningful money. But I use this area up here to trim a little bit of size just on some positions that I had because I just know looking at past halvings, the monthly high before we broke into a fully fledged bear market's always been a pretty significant inflection point. So 2016 cycle, that's that high. 2022, that's that high. And for 2024, we just took out that level. That's the one we were talking about. So whether or not history repeats itself a third time around, and this is kind of the place where we go at least sideways before a sell-off into the halving, which has always been characteristic, yet to be seen. There's nothing to say we can't just go sideways, a little bit of a blip down, then we, I guess, start to kick off to the upside because we can see the month after the halving has usually been where the weeds are sort of whacked out and we just begin that uptrend. So I think it's going to be pretty cool. 90 days from here, we're really in the thick of it now. If Bitcoin can at least not completely lose its legs, it sets up a really good opportunity for things like Ethereum and altcoins to still continue.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, from here, if we were to start losing levels, you'd be eyeing off 40K, high 30Ks to be your next saving level. So be interesting to see how this week plays out.
Yeah, and I want to touch on the Ethereum ETF in a sec, but I thought we'd kind of break down how the Bitcoin ETF performed in its first couple of days of trading.
Yeah, it's been good.
So, got a stat here. It had $1.2 billion of trading volume in its first 30 minutes of trading on that first day. So I think, Tommy, you've got a stat that it's broken records in terms of ETF launches.
Yeah, I mean, across the number of ETFs that came out for Bitcoin at the same time, I think there was 11 in total that was approved, something like that. It took gold, GLD, which was the main kind of spot gold ETF back in 2004. Took them 5 years to get to the same value that we've already got essentially within the ETFs for Bitcoin. Again, added context or a caveat to that, risk-adjusted price, risk-adjusted currency. Like there's a lot of factors at play, but I guess the stats now prove that it is going to be and has been the most successful ETF or financial ETF products launched ever, which is quite positive. I mean, we all know how at times like retail get very quite sensitive, and the expectation was ETF gets approved, we go to the moon, right? Like that. I think a lot of analysts like yourselves and we certainly knew that wasn't going to be the case. It wasn't going to be a clear cut. We get an approval. We've been pricing this in since Bitcoin was 20 grand. Yeah. So like we've been riding 20K Bitcoin up to call it 47, 48K. Yeah. That's your ETF price narrative that has been played out.
That's the story.
I mean, I hate using the cliche, but buy the rumor, sell the news. The buy the rumor time was when Bitcoin was 20K. So like we just have to remember where we've actually come from. If you zoom out to 3 months on Bitcoin, we're up 50% or so. Ethereum's about 60%. So we are still trending in the right direction. Like, people get kind of trigger happy after a big event like this, and when expectations aren't gone, like the momentum is still largely positive. I think it would be very, very healthy for the market now to correct for a couple of months, or like Pav, as you call out, into that next Bitcoin halving. But I guess for me, and I know Ted, you already kind of mentioned it, for me it's like, what's next, right? We've got a list. Let's check off now Bitcoin ETF. What's the next thing that comes on there? Obviously the Solana narrative is playing pretty heavily. The Ethereum ETF is playing like almost too heavily at the moment, and we even seen the price action from Ethereum. Like ETH is the one that got the price action for about right? That's right, as the ETF was approved for Bitcoin. So I bet there's a few things we can point to there. I know you mentioned the Grayscale Trust Bitcoin case that the SEC lost against Grayscale. Well, the exact same thing, almost a mirror image, occurred with the Ethereum Grayscale Trust. So the precedent is set for that product itself being approved for a spot ETF. So that's kind of, I think, what the narrative is starting to take shape at the moment. TLDR, people think it'll get approved. The Ethereum ETF will get approved, and May is the date.
That's the deadline, right?
Yeah, so the end of May. I don't know the exact date. So the end of May, people are speculating right now that that's going to be the Ethereum ETF may be approved at that time. Some analysts are saying there's 80 to 90% chance that it happens in May. I'm probably more so in the camp that it takes a little bit longer. The can will be kicked down the road a little bit longer. Gensler and these, some of his team members, as we mentioned already, they've got the tail between the legs a little bit. I don't think they'll be wanting to take another loss. If they see it as a loss, they shouldn't be seeing it as a loss. Being regulators, not necessarily like law. They're enforcers, right? So it's really interesting to see where it goes next. And I think just for retail, like, it's still very positive. Everything is still very positive in the market. You zoom out even, a month. If you zoom out 3 months, things still look really, really good. And we have to remember where we came from. But it's about what's next.
Yeah, I guess from my perspective, I was a lot more confident about the ETH ETF prior to the Bitcoin ETF approval. I know it sounds weird, but just based on like Gensler's comments and that SEC voting process, Gensler's come out before in the past and basically said when Ethereum moved to proof of stake, he made a statement: proof of stake, cryptocurrencies are likely to be subject to securities laws or classified as securities. We know they've come after the likes of Solana, Cardano, all these other proof of stake cryptocurrencies. So I guess, like Bitcoin, he like the SEC and Gensler never really came out against Bitcoin. So yeah, like as anticipated, that got approved, but I think Ethereum probably has less chance of being approved. Whether that, like you said, it's still 80-90%. Like I'm not sure if that's the case, but yeah, I think these next couple of months will be telling to see how they kind of react to those applications.
I'm the opposite of that, because I just think everyone's seen how narrative plays out in crypto. Like that's the one thing about crypto that's different to, let's say, the stock market. It's all narrative driven. So like if everyone's seen a meme coin go, they go looking for the next meme coin. If everyone sees the Bitcoin ETF launch, they're looking for the next ETF. It's definitely good.
That's my theory kind of on it as well. And something that I think I mentioned to you guys earlier, I was listening to the Bankless podcast over the weekend while I was cutting the lawn at home, which I love to do. And Eric Balchunas, who's one of the senior ETF analysts at BlackRock, I believe it is. He was just speaking about kind of the next thing and how it all played out with Bitcoin, and the guys at Bankless were speaking about Gensler's tone towards Ethereum has changed significantly itself over the last couple of months. Since he did say that ETH was a security. I think he called it out in government or in parliament or whatever they have over there, one of their Senate hearings. He called it out, and it has started to wind that narrative back. So it could be linked. They're speculating that narrative shift is linked to the fact that they took the loss on Grayscale on Bitcoin. It's likely that precedent is now set. Precedent in the courts is something that you can almost, set your watch to, which is something that I'm quite. That's why I'm so kind of positive.
But I guess they're also coming after Coinbase and Binance for listing tokens like Solana, Cardano, and BNB and things like that. So if they've got that going, and it's a current court case happening, is approving the Ethereum ETF going to go against that? Like just something to think about.
No, it is, and I do. I guess just to clarify, I do see Bitcoin and Ethereum as kind of out on their own. I think there is a massive challenge or gulf to the next ETF, like whether it comes for Solana or whether it comes for XRP. I don't know, whatever the next one is, or whatever that basket or index of crypto fund might be. I think there's a massive gap to that. But I mean, how good of a year would it be if we got a Bitcoin and an Ethereum ETF approved to be pretty exciting?
Yeah, I think so. Like, it'd be a good narrative again, just to keep following. And at the end of the day, if the objective is everyone wants price appreciation, what is going to spark more adoption than speculating on ETFs this whole cycle? I think it's going to be a good.
Think about that as a product as well, right? You have a Bitcoin ETF, and it pays dividends because of proof of stake. So it's got a natural dividend.
That's going to work.
You get price appreciation, plus you've got a natural dividend, depending on the fund. Again, speculating on this, but there's an assumption that there's an already baked in dividend mechanism because of proof of stake, which is
revolutionizing
pretty cool.
Financial markets.
Exactly right. So,
cool.
Anyway.
I just want to, Pav, if you're able to bring up that chart comparing this cycle to the several cycles that have come before. So kind of just shows, we're just looking at a chart here where the black line is 2022 and onwards, and it shows we're well on track for that bull market in 2024, 2025 in the lead up, post Bitcoin halving. So yeah, anyone that kind of is saying, Bitcoin prices come down after the ETF approval, like what's that about? This kind of just reiterates that we are on track compared to previous cycles that have always had that bull market.
Just on page 2.
Just on page 2.
Yeah. A lot more to be said still.
Absolutely. Early days.
Very early.
Yeah, we're running a marathon. How far are we in? 10Ks?
We've done this, and I don't know how far.
10Ks. Are we now at 12Ks?
42Ks.
42Ks?
42Ks.
You never run a marathon, Pat?
Oh. Sorry, you can't. Yeah, I don't know. Like, what's that then? 36Ks in? Something like that. Anyway, it's getting silly now.
No.
It looks like less than a quarter of the 40, right? So let's say we're at 10Ks.
Yep. Just at the first drink station.
That's exciting. I can even run 10Ks.
Oh, yeah.
Let's see what else has happened. We got the Fear and Greed Index. Something, Ted, you wanted to mention that?
Oh, no, just a quick one. Like last week we spoke about how fear and greed was at extreme greed, like numbers or levels that we hadn't seen in since the last bull market. So after the announcement came in last week and price kind of retraced a little bit, we dropped down to actually neutral in terms of fear and greed. And then today we're at greed. So Yeah, I mean, I know
It's so volatile at the moment. Like the index itself is quite volatile. Like a lot of times recently when I've been tracking it, it's moving by 2 or 3 kind of points a day.
Yeah.
Like yesterday, it's moved from neutral 52 to 64 today, which is a big
swing.
like a big swing.
This is usually quite lagging. Like it's pretty indicative, but like it moves pretty ebb and flow and slow.
Yeah.
So it's interesting.
Yeah.
Again, it just kind of goes back to the whole. This is generally like retail sentiment, right? Like so, it's crazy how. I guess that is volatile. We know that retail traders are volatile, but it's really interesting to see. Like I said earlier, I've been zooming out like 3 months and 6 months and looking at kind of the price points across the board. And I do think we are due for that kind of correction. It'll come, it won't, it's never linear, whether it's up or down we're going, it's never linear. So we will be chop. I think we see a period of chop, but I think, I don't know, Pav, I know you're kind of on the fence with it at the moment. I do think we are due for a bit of a sell-off over the next 6 weeks at least.
It's definitely where I'm leaning, but I've just seen what happens sometimes when you get into these extreme like corners of price, and you can just go up one more time rapidly before crashing down again. So it's going to be interesting.
It's going to be, I think, an interesting point to watch or a data point to review is the the long liquidation market, like that market, and see what kind of your open interest.
Open interest. That's
So I think that's something that would be keen to watch as well. Like where, especially when you have large shifts in sentiment, like the fear and greed. Are people now, they were short yesterday, but now today they're gone. Everyone's gone long. Yeah. Like those things, we know those long positions or short positions always get liquidated at some point, like quite heavily, and it's generally quite volatile. So another good point to watch, I think.
Absolutely. Let's so we're going to dive into some top movers for the week. So what do we got? Like we're looking at, the top movers are like, Hex, eHex, Pulse Chain. They're kind of all linked under the old Richard Hart projects, I guess you could say. But I don't
know much about those actually.
Yeah. I know Richard Hart has come under a lot of scrutiny, especially with the SEC. I think you might have mentioned he'd been arrested recently, so we might not touch on those. We'll just focus on the other ones that are listed here.
Yeah.
So the biggest one for the week is Ethereum name service, so up 73% on the week.
That was an interesting one.
Yeah, I guess it came after, we talked before about how Ethereum and a bunch of Ethereum, related coins pumped after the ETF announcements, probably in anticipation for an ETH ETF. But Vitalik Buterin, so the founder of Ethereum, basically came out and said that Ethereum name service is super important. To explain what it is, it's kind of like it allows you to purchase domains on the blockchain. So when you're sending money say if I'm sending money to Tommy, I don't have to use, my public address, which is a long string of numbers and letters. I could just use my name, like ted.eth or whatever it is. And it's a bit more user-friendly. People want to lock up those domains. Like, we've seen domains are very valuable in the real world.
Yep.
So this could be a similar sort of sentiment.
Yeah. Have you got one?
I don't.
You got one?
I do. I don't know. I don't know actually where it is. I don't know where I've stored it, but I do have one. Yeah, I can remember. I got it for free when they one of the name service projects. I can't obviously think of the name right now because you're asking me the question. Of course, brain. Thank you. But yeah, one of the domain naming services on ENS. We're using ENS. I did end up like minting two of them actually, I think, at the time, but never really use it. But I like the concept where you've got one Ethereum address and then it links to all the different assets you can get paid in.
Yeah.
Some of them even like off Ethereum versions actually give you like, you can have Bitcoin and you can have different assets on it as well, which is pretty cool. So
because I don't know if I've got that one. I've got one, but it I can add like a Solana wallet, a Bitcoin wallet.
Yeah.
So it must be a separate one.
Yeah.
It's a pretty cool idea.
Yeah.
So there are currently 2.1 million registered ENS names, over 800,000 unique participants. So it's pretty popular.
I have the name.
You have the name.
Unstoppable Domains.
That's what I got.
Is the name. So you probably got it at the same time as I did. We're probably talking about it at work and we're like...
Do you know the name of it though?
Yeah. I think it's like...
Tommy.eth?
I think it's like Tommy.eth.
Yeah. Gotcha.
Yeah, something like that. Or probably where I'm from in Ireland, like .eth. So I usually use Doonbeg.
Do you use it for your Twitter handle?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Tom Doonbeg.
Yeah. I was saying that. Nice. Yeah, because a lot of people use it for their Twitter, which is pretty cool. So just another use case for it.
Yeah. Just another place people won't pay me.
I guess what else we got going? We've got the shiny new L1s narrative still running that we've been chatting about for the last few weeks. So TIA representing SUI. We have got what else in the L1 space? There seem to be the big ones. There's Tezos, one of the last cycle or previous cycle to that coins running as well. Ethereum, we talked about that. So, I mean, yeah. I mean, for me, the whole SUI TIA thing's just been of super interest because it's all in price discovery now. So there's nothing on the left to really reference. So the market's moving as impulsively as the participants want to move it. So
have you guys kind of touched on like price discovery for people? Like, I don't know if you touched on that much in the last podcast, because I think that's something important to call out. What people don't understand when you don't have a reference point for assets, and they've never, they've essentially never been in a bull market, or they've never had some. You look at XRP and you look at all these ADA and all these coins that just have had like 2 or 3 cycles under the belt. Yeah. When you have a new asset that has never had that cycle, it does, it goes into price discovery when it hits all-time highs, and we just, like to Pav's point, we've got no reference.
There's no reference, no.
Yeah,
so this is the one we pointed out in the past. So Injective, like it was a 2021 coin, but it was one of the first ones to actually break out into discovery or disco early this year. But then you look at something like, say, it's done the exact same thing, but just in a much, much shorter period of time. So it's no different at all.
Yeah, so coins like SUI, say TIA, which is Celestia, they all launched in 2023.
Yeah.
And so what we're trying to say is historically,
that's a real good one.
In bull markets, new altcoins tend to be preferred over like those more. I mean, they'll often give like bigger return on investments.
Yeah.
Than say those historical.
But that being said, SUI is yet to break out. So add that to the watch list if the market holds up.
From the previous high, right? Yeah. Interesting.
Very interesting.
Yeah, well, SUI is one that was started by ex-Facebook employees.
Yes.
I think Aptos as well. So they've got obviously those connections in the Web 2 world. I think they've got partnerships with Google as well. So
there's some cool things coming out. I think as the market progresses, they'll bring out the news catalysts and stuff they've been working on.
Is that a proof of stake, Jen, as well?
But
yeah, I thought it was.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
It is.
Opportunity knocks at the door.
It really does.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's all playing out again.
Yeah, and just one more I wanted to touch on as well is Helium. So HNT, that kind of falls into the decentralized physical infrastructure sector that we touched on a little bit recently. I'd like to really dive into that sector in the future in a bit more detail. But basically what that means is they're diving into what we call like networks of physical infrastructure, right? Or physical
something
hardware.
You can touch and it actually does something.
Yeah, exactly. So in this case, they've started their own mobile phone network, and they've teamed up with T-Mobile, which I guess you could say is like
in the States.
Yeah, the Telstra of the United States, so a huge mobile phone network. And they're offering mobile phone plans for like $20, which is considered pretty cheap in the US. So they've had a pretty good run recently. And the thing is, like, they don't have much coverage in the US where their like network reaches out to. So that's where they need to kind of get help from T-Mobile. I think they have to pay T-Mobile for that coverage. But
similar to the smaller carriers here, like Boost Mobiles and these guys, they just leverage one of the big networks like Telstra, right? Like similar kind of thing, is it? Yeah. No, that's definitely an interesting one to watch.
The only other one I sort of spotted was some NFT ecosystem assets sort of having a bit of love. So, I mean, could we be seeing the next ecosystem rotation? Maybe. Chili's is up there, up 20%, which has not been in the top movers at all in a long time. Blur, that's kind of been in and out of the top movers, I think, again, just due to newer coin narrative, shiny coin narrative. But I think that'd be an interesting one just to observe right now. It seems like the biggest moves are still coming in infrastructure tokens. It looks like it's still...
That's pleasing for me to see.
The rotation to different sector?
just like people are focusing on kind of L1s, even the L2 scaling solutions. Like that is, for me, that's like fundamental building blocks of crypto in general. Look, you're always going to get, like, I can see Bonk up there rolling around. Like you are always going to get those narrative plays as well. Like when the meme coins are hot, they're all hot. Yeah. Like you mentioned, Ted, with its Ethereum narrative, there's 30 coins connected to Ethereum. I've seen like Lido was in the list as well.
Yeah,
so like you had, it's a narrative play, and crypto crypto traders love a narrative play, and that's why you kind of, when you see one of the top ones going like Ethereum, you do, you know, I know this is what I do at times when I'm looking for swing trades or I'm looking for like long trades. It's what's the lowest down the list with the most of opportunity that's connected to that narrative.
Yeah.
And it's, you know, it's not, sometimes that's as scientific as it gets when you're looking for a, you know, kind of a swing trade on a narrative. So yeah.
Do you think this next cycle or this next bull run that we're anticipating, do you think it will be more of a narrative driven bull run than previous?
Yeah, it's always been. I don't think it's ever going to stop.
No, but more than previous bull markets?
Oh, I guess it just depends. Like, if there's more things to talk about, then is that what you mean? Like, there's just more things that could potentially be happening?
Well, I guess like there's larger ecosystems out there. For instance, like the Solana run we've seen recently. That's been a narrative. But I guess in the last cycle we saw the metaverse stuff happening, especially when Facebook changed their name to Meta. That was a huge narrative there. And the NFTs as well. But it just doesn't seem like that was as much of a factor as we're going to now, where we're seeing ecosystems, entirely moving up. Whereas Ethereum's ecosystem didn't really move based on what Ethereum was doing.
True.
If you know what I mean.
Okay. Yeah, I don't know. Like, there's certain ecosystems that are like custom built for certain applications. Like, let's say, just to pull one out of the sky, like GameFi. Like, we're all waiting for GameFi. Right?
Yeah, I think, I was just about to mention the exact same one as well.
So then you have, I guess, things that you would say front running in that category would be like infrastructure plays, like IMX, layer 2s, like Optimism. Some people are pegging AVAX to even be a big player in the GameFi space. So if I see strength there, let's just say Solana. All of a sudden, Solana just gets into GameFi. Yeah. Then that ecosystem will thrive based on, I guess, how much value has increased in that parent token, potentially.
Yeah. Everyone's talking about Solana. Obviously, it's had an amazing kind of run. But like, I'm just looking at the chart here. Over the last 3 months, AVAX is also up 290%.
Yeah.
Solana's up 300. So I think people have been speaking about AVAX, but not at the same level as they have been for Solana. So I mean, that's, I guess kind of like it fits with what you just said, Pav, right? Like,
yeah, I think it's just we'll move from one ship to the next and look at that space and see what's inside. Like, we talked about Bonk. Bonk was a meme quote on Solana. Solana goes up, Bonk goes up. If Ethereum goes up, I imagine some meme coin on Ethereum will start going up. Like, it is unfortunately just that simple sometimes. It's good.
Awesome. Cool. Well, we might dive into some of the news headlines for the week.
Check it out.
So Larry Fink, CEO of BlackRock, we've spoken about him before. He's basically come out and doubled down on his sentiment around tokenization of real-world assets, especially post ETF approval. So he's essentially just saying that crypto ETFs are just a stepping stone on the road to this revolution of the financial markets and the financial world. And he sees like digital ledgers and blockchains playing a huge part, especially as tokenization of financial products and instruments become more prominent. So it's just one of those things that legitimizes the industry that we're in a little bit more, doesn't it?
We've got some new supporters.
Yeah, new cheerleaders, as you said.
New cheerleaders, as I said earlier. Yeah, I mean, look, these guys have a product to sell now. Like I mentioned earlier, like they now have a product to sell, and they're going to be looking for more products to sell in the digital asset ecosystem. I think for me, the biggest, I know we've touched on ETF probably quite a bit now over the last, I know you guys probably in the last episode and this one, but for me, it just adds that legitimacy layer to the whole ecosystem. Like there's the jury's been out, the question has been out for a long time over the whole industry. Yep. Specific to Australia, we got, for me, the best news that I've heard from a SwiftX or running exchange perspective, from the regulators recently, that we were going to be moving into an AFSL regime, which just again adds another layer of legitimacy on it. It sorts them in from the boys almost. Like it means that the strongest players in market will have standards to work to. At the moment, it's very much self-regulated industry, like it is globally. So for me, this is just another stepping stone. I think we've used that term 18 times already in this episode, which is good. But it is another stepping stone for the industry overall, and you will see a host of all these Larry Fink, old white rich guys coming out to talk about, digital assets is the future. All that narrative is going to be hot now at the moment because they've got money to make, they've got products to sell, and it's going to be it's it can only be positive from their perspective. But caveat to everything, we are in crypto. There's always something around the corner that we're not expecting.
True.
So what is that thing now that can disrupt this whole kind of momentum that we're in? I don't know the answer to that. I guess it's just a question that I'm asking
You got to expect it.
you guys and asking everyone that I speak to. And I was like, what's the thing that's going to shake us off this kind of pretty, clear path to, a true financial market? What is that thing that's going to rock us? Because it's, like I said earlier,
alluding to something negative.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I think there will be something. I don't know what it is yet, but
Yeah, I mean, if you zoom back 2021, 2022, if you told me FTX was going down, I'd be like, yeah, right.
that's right.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So look, and I think we have weeded out a lot of the problems, but I think there's still some skeletons, I think, in the closet overall.
Well, actually, do you remember like the Fort Knox story at all?
No.
So I don't know the exact timeline of events, but it was like back when everything was backed by gold. And it was like you would have a nation whose currency had this much gold in their reserves to sort of uphold their currency. Someone called out the US saying, show us your gold. And they had basically a massive deficit. They had no gold.
Right.
So their currency for a period was like backed by question mark. So like I wonder if like, I don't know, let's throw some speculation. What if one of these ETFs don't have the Bitcoin in them?
Oh,
No.
Yeah.
Oosh, there. Yeah, well, that's
That's
the story.
the story.
Yeah. The beauty of blockchain technology, though, Pav, where you tell us that we can link the asset directly then.
This technology.
We've fixed the problem that we're foreseeing already. So yeah. Forget I said anything. We're all good.
That's the problem with progress.
Yeah. What do you think about the like guys like Larry Fink coming up, Pav, from BlackRock? And
I've been shouting that I think the real effects people don't actually appreciate that what this is going to do for adoption.
Yeah.
Like if you ever think of like your standard Google image adoption curve, like we're currently sitting at like still that first pushing into second quartile, like there's still the majority not touching crypto.
Yeah.
So this is what will get us to like 30% of people having crypto, and then 35, and then 40, and then 50, and then boom, everyone's got 1% of something in their portfolio. And yeah, I think the big one's going to be once everyone's had a taste of Bitcoin, they've had a taste of, I'm guessing Ethereum's to come. Where does the diversity tree then lead to? I think that's going to be the biggest rat race for speculation, and maybe the back end of this year, start of next year.
I think the race is still on for that. Like, if you were to put your finger on, it's funny how it changes, right? Because 12 months ago, we would have said, oh, Solana's done, finished, after the FTX stuff, right? Now Solana's almost the next one that you look at when you think about Bitcoin, Ethereum. It's like, you're probably not too far. Like, Solana's in the race with the likes of your AVAX, I would say, and, a couple of other those.
Seems like Matic's fallen out of the sky.
Yeah, Matic has fallen out of the sky. I've been waiting for that to kind of do
I wonder if they're waiting for their rebrand before they start trying anything.
Yeah, maybe. Because they're, quite heavily tied to, Ethereum scaling services as well. So
very vital.
like Cardano as well is something that hasn't done anything. There's a lot of what do they call the Cardano thing?
Oh yeah, what are they called?
Army, is it? No, whatever they are. But yeah, there's a Polkadot is another one that and Chainlink and these ones that kind of come to mind. You think about
like legacy coins.
Yeah, legacy. What are the next biggest assets or most solid projects that are coming up after Bitcoin Ethereum? Because I think realistically we're trying to look 5-10 years out now because we know this market's going to be around. It's getting legitimized.
Yep.
That's kind of where I think the puck is going, where we kind of should be skating, or we should at least having thoughts about it.
I think if I had to speculate on that line, I would say it's not going to be a single asset ETF that comes in that realm. I would say there'd be like a layer, like an infrastructure ETF, and that would have like maybe a basket of like L1s to spread risk out.
Yeah.
Maybe. I don't know, but I think that would be a good angle.
Similar to bundles that we have on Swiftnets, which is
There it is.
but not.
Another thing I want to touch on with the legitimization of crypto is you don't see financial advisors, giving out crypto advice. And I don't think it's legal.
They
in
can't do
Australia.
it.
Yeah. So is that like the next step in legitimizing this industry?
Yeah, if they have the products. The products have a PDS, disclosure, risk statements. They can. Yeah, 100%. But
they can sell. The financial advisors could now sell spot Bitcoin ETF in the US.
Yep.
Or I know you mentioned earlier that there's one in Australia on the CBOE exchange.
Yeah, so not on the
second tier exchange. But yeah, I mean, it has to be a financial product for them to give financial product advice on it. Yeah. Whereas no cryptos individual cryptos at this stage, like on their own as assets, are deemed as financial products at this point. So, but that will change, right? So once the licensing comes in for exchanges, that's where I see, in Australia specific, that's where I see the narrative shifting for what financial advisors and these kind of teams of people can do, and they can start to manage portfolios for crypto and people.
But the way that it's getting regulated is the digital asset exchange or the crypto exchange are the financial products, right?
Yeah.
So how? I don't want to go too down.
Well, there is a separate piece where there's like asset categorization and token mapping, which is basically where they're gonna classify each asset. But that's just part of a bigger piece of work that's happening, I guess, over the next 24 months.
Yeah, absolutely. Got on a bit of a tangent there. We got more news headlines
when the three boys are back together.
Absolutely,
it's got a lot to talk about. Look, this one's pretty quick. It's the Michael Saylor deepfakes. So if you're not aware, deepfakes are essentially AI, I don't know what you call them, AI manifestations, where they're trying to target, I guess, the vulnerable. And in this case, it's a deepfake of Michael Saylor pledging to people if they give them their money that he knows how to double it for them. So old Michael, came out with a tweet saying there's no risk-free way to double your Bitcoin, and MicroStrategy does not give away Bitcoin to those who scan a barcode. He then tweeted after that, my team takes down about 80 fake AI-generated YouTube videos every day, but the scammers keep launching more. Don't trust, verify. And for me, I know we were on the inside here at the exchange, it feels like this is just Groundhog Day. It's always the vulnerable that are just desperate to, obviously they need to double their money. But, let's just... what would you say some easy ways to avoid knowing if something's for real or for not for real?
Just everything. Everything is a scam until you have verified.
Yeah.
It
sounds too good to be true. It is. Let's be honest.
Yeah. Pretty simple.
Even just yesterday in one of the Facebook groups, crypto Facebook groups in Australia, people are still putting up links to these platforms that are 2% a day. So they actually try and they're not trying to go, we're going to give you 100% today, we're going to give you 2% today. So that kind of gets people to second guess. Yeah. This could actually be legit. This is like a trading strategy. Yeah. But 99.9% are scams. But people are still going down those rabbit holes, which is quite scary. There's so many ways to get legitimate exposure to assets, especially within Australia. We're really lucky. We have a lot of really solid brands and trusted, platforms and exchanges and everything else. But you just continuously see it. People still fall. And like you said, Ted, it is the more vulnerable people that are, trying to turn that $1,000 into $5,000 or whatever it is. And, it's really scary, and it's really sad when you see, them going down their own path and get scammed. Obviously, we see it on our side at times where, we stop a ton of it, but you can't stop absolutely everything.
No, I think it's worth educating yourself on what these deepfakes can actually look like, and actually they're ridiculously polished. Just check it out, even just as for a giggle.
Yeah, I know the Michael Saylor ones aren't the only ones that are out there. I've seen, Brad Garlinghouse, CEO of Ripple.
Yep. Okay.
Basically, at the start, it's like an ad for a YouTube video, and he's saying he's going to, double your XRP or whatever. And a guy in our office fell for it because that's how real they look. The intervention of AI in these things is just
it's another layer.
Sophisticated scams are just they're
I think
it's unfortunate.
I think. Well, I did tell you guys before about Chris, who's our CMO at SwiftX, playing around with one of the tools, and he left a voicemail on my phone to meet him at meet him at the coffee shop, and it was legit. Sounded like Chris. Left me the voicemail. I was like, I just, cause it's Chris, I just knew he was messing around with something. So I called him up, and I'm just like, hey, did you just leave a voicemail on my phone? He just laughing, like Chris does. Yeah. But I think what the scariest part for me about this whole thing is how in a court of law do you you see murder cases and you got people recording saying, I take the body from A to B. It's like, how do you know now all these things are not deep fakes? How, at what level of granularity is this technology going to get to where you can't actually tell what's real and what's not?
They would use an AI judge to work it out.
Well, I mean, you might not be wrong.
Anyway. There'll be AI tools to basically pick out
combat
AI and what's real.
Sure.
But
it's still, it's just like,
Yeah.
you know, it's another big
issue.
can of worms.
Mental.
Yeah.
Mental.
Yeah.
All right, that broke my brain for the week.
Well, that's what I'm here for. You know, you won't invite. That'll serve you right for inviting me in on a Tuesday morning after session.
It's good to have you back. That was a good one, boys.
Yeah, man.
Yeah,
Tommy,
good
thanks
chat.
for coming back.
No worries. No, it's good to be back, guys. And you know, if you need any irrelevant perspectives, you always know where I am.
Absolutely. We'll see you in about 3-4 months' time.
Well, now that you've set the tone for me, I'm kind of, you know, I want to try and hit double digits at least.
Double digits, yeah.
But,
We should have said bloody triple, so.
Yeah. Well, the math doesn't matter there. Yeah. Anyway, it's fine. But no, look, great to be back, guys. I appreciate it, and I think it was, it's always good to hang out.
Hope there's some value in there.
Yeah.
Absolutely. See you next week, guys.
Cheers.